Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Danville School Board meeting. Promptly at 6 o'clock. So I've called the meeting to order. So item 2 on the agenda is we need to approve the meeting agendas. This meeting agenda as presented. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
I second that.
So we have a motion and a second, and all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. And we're going to go to presentations. And, we usually start out with board member comments. Do any of the board members have anything they want to talk about as far as?
Briefly, I have to thank Dr. Thomas for displaying the plan of excellence on keeping the ship right and just moving in the right direction. And your sincerity in getting us moving, keep us moving. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I can second. Wade, do you have anything?
Absolutely, I concur with Mr. Ball, and I don't have really a lot of comments, but I would like to just say that kudos and thank you to all of our staff, and when I say staff, I mean everybody within the government and school district. Work diligently to make sure that we are able to keep our kids in school, and I know that is not easy at all. Because our teachers have families as well, while they're still trying to teach other people's kids, and we don't take that lightly at all. And so I just want to say thanks to everybody for due diligence and all that. So just please know that you don't always get that attaboy or the pat on the back, you know, and it doesn't come often enough. And so I just want to make sure you get one today. So just know that you are appreciated, even if you don't hear it as often as you should.
I just want to say, I really appreciate, I know that we have recognitions coming up, but I really appreciate seeing so many faces here. Like, usually there's not that many, and I really just love seeing everyone here. Just like, you're welcome back. We do this, once or maybe twice a month, so just come back and, and participate. That would be great. I really appreciate everyone here.
And I agree with that. Sometimes we have meetings and there's 3 people there. So you all are all, of course, always welcome. We have a long agenda, so I'm not going to comment much. I'll just do 5 minutes instead of 7. But just kidding. And I have to agree with all these guys. We have a very special board. Jennifer's on her way. It's a tough job, and it takes a crazy person sometimes, you think, to do this as being a board member. But it's our part of knowing that we're doing things for our community and our kids and our stakeholders. And I believe 99% of it is positive. And so some days it gets a little rough, but most days it's absolutely the most joyful thing I have done for almost 16 years of the 30 years that I've been in Danville. So, and I have to say with Wade, I agree with him and everybody, but we can't do this without everybody here. From our bus drivers, custodians, to our cafeteria ladies and men, and just everybody's teachers and administration. It's been tough. I mean, it's been a tough couple of 18 months, almost 2 years now. And we have done well with this. So just thank you to everyone. Thank you to the parents especially for putting up with us. So anyway, thank you all very much. Dr. Thomas?
Yeah, I just have one comment this evening, and that is I'd like to congratulate Raekwon Masterson. Raekwon was being recognized by WTVQ as one of their high school senior Black History Makers in 2022. And we're excited and happy for Raekwon because he's been part of our district since kindergarten, and he has quite a story. Raekwon will be awarded $1,000 to use for college books, fees, or classes as he moves forward beyond high school. And if all goes well, he'll be interviewed tomorrow online by WTVQ. And while I don't have the specific details of the airing of the interview, we'll be certain to look forward to that and see that that's put out on social media as well. And Raekwon was nominated for this award by Tracy Wright, and we really appreciate everything to further all opportunities.
Okay. We now go to the section on recognitions. We recognize students and staff for various activities, and I believe Mrs. Farmer's going to run with this for us.
Yes. I'm going to start with our students. So we have two actually who were not able to be here this evening. So I will mention them first. Morgan Downs, who's in Mrs. Denny's class, she is being recognized because one of the things that we use at Hogsett is eSmart, which is a computer program where kids can work at their own level and at their own pace. And Morgan has made more growth than any student in the entire school. So we really wanted to recognize her for that hard work and growth, but she is absent today. Also, for Story Semino, who is a first grader, for her being one of our top accelerated readers. Students read books and can take tests on them. It's entirely optional, and Story has done a lot with those books this year, so I will make sure that they get those awards, and I'm going to set them down for a second. Keeman Balal is my next one. Keeman, you want to come here? So Keeman is also one of our top readers in our school, and he's being recognized for his accelerated reader points. And some things I need to say about Keeman. So if you walk into Mrs. Haney's class during reading, you might find Keeman in a beanbag in the corner reading a chapter book, because he is so into reading that he's just working at his own pace and devouring every book we've got. And he's also one of our leaders for crew gathering. So Keeman will read, and at the end of our day, every day we have meetings as a school, and we talk about all the great things that happen, and Keeman is one of our students that reads the entire thing and leads everyone through. Today he did crew gathering for the school. So he's a huge leader. In his class, many cards, let's see, for Mrs. Romero. So, would you take those to her? She's right there. Because it is board member appreciation month. So these students also made cards for our board members. And then, can you also do me a favor and take I think these are for Mr. Stanfield. So these from this tall man over here. And that's for Mrs. Denny's class. So that was from Morgan's class. Thank you so much, Damon.
Wow.
I'm going to wait a few pictures. You want to have to stay up? Or I've got 2 more students. Okay. Can you wait? Here, I'll tell you what. You go have a seat and we'll take pictures in a minute, right? All right. Peter's class. Here's another avid reader. He has also gotten an award for ALS. So Peter's class has cards for Mr. Ball.
Well, thank you so very much.
And he's in Miss Grigsby's class. And Peter has been doing, now Payman is new to us this year, so he's a newer student for us, but Peter has been with us for 2 years, and he's been into AR for 2 years. And last year was our top AR reader in the school as a kindergartner. So this is Peter's certificate, and he is just another one that does crew gathering for us like a pro. His class, when he leaves, they cheer for him and they're like, "Come on, Peter, read everything. You're going to do so awesome." And he does. So he's another student leader for us, and we're really proud of Peter. This last award's a little different. All right. So Miss Hamburg might need to help me with this one. So Miss Hamburg spends a lot of time doing the buses in the morning. And Amy Hernandez is getting a very special award, not just from us as a school for being an assistant bus monitor, but from her bus drivers and monitors. So Tim Rushway and her monitor, Coach Pittman, have given her, they get these things called golden tickets for the kids that have the best behavior on the bus. And I think it's Coach Pittman that takes a lot of pride in making these fancy golden tickets. And if you notice, this is a platinum. The only one
no one asleep. She checks every seat, and when she gets off, she lets them know that every student is safe and in the school. So she's like a little mother hen and just walks behind everyone and makes sure that everybody's okay.
That's perfect.
Yes. So, and she's of course a leader in our school too, but I think we need to be paying her for her services on the bus.
Mark that down.
Yes. So her class wrote notes to Mr. Becker.
Oh, thank you so much.
And then if you also give these to Mrs. Pisapiri, who's over here, those are from a student that was her class that wasn't here. So those are your thank you cards from our students. So we appreciate you. There's also some cupcakes and cookies and drinks for everyone. You don't have to be a board member. But to thank you all for coming to Hogshead and for serving on our board. And yeah, so, okay. Do you want to do pictures of the students? Or okay, let's do the pictures of the students. And then, do you want to gather stuff in? We'll all be together. Okay. You? And then I'll do you want to get them? Usually this board member.
You want us up there?
Yeah, all of us. I mean, just appreciation. They did all this hard work on these letters.
I'm giving my hand. He's a family member.
Just remember, I'm behind all of I'll just get through here. Which one?
These won't take nearly as long, and I guess we have some staff recognition. So I wanted to recognize we have two members of the Hogshead staff and also a member of the high school staff that I don't see in here, but Derek Otto also I chose to recognize because panel member Helen Blevins and Derek Otto were all National Board Certified teachers already. But then every 5 years, that certificate has to be renewed. And they both achieved their renewal last month, which is a big deal that they had to renew their certification, which is good for another 5 years. So I wanted to recognize all of them. So if you aren't aware of board certification, it's a voluntary recognition of certification that's at a national level. And it involves submitting a portfolio of your instruction with videotapes of your teaching and analysis of how things went and how you know they went well or didn't go well and what you would do differently next time. It includes taking a test. It includes some of that is open response questions and there's some multiple choice questions, but it's a really rigorous process. And the renewal, taking that initiative to continue that certificate is a small thing. So people like Mrs. Blevins and Mrs. Hambrick, who are instructional coach and our assistant principal, had to borrow classrooms to show that they still can teach at those levels. So, yeah. A couple of things. So they have their certificate from the board. They also have something that we have as a district, our signs outside of the classrooms for people who are Google certified or and or National Board certified, and I had to add their renewal on there. And then also National Board uses the What Teachers Should Know Be Able to Do book for guidance on what good teaching looks like. So I got a copy of the book and some like National Board stickers and things. So thank you.
Mrs. Farmer, thank you for that, and congratulations to the students and our staff. Good stuff. Thank you. Okay, next let's go to the personnel notice. sorry, Friends of the Arts, and I think Kathy Alt, is that correct? And Jennifer, are you going to help present? Kathy, you're right.
Well, thank you, first of all, for giving us the opportunity to share this with the board and the rest of the school community. I'm Jennifer Pusateri. I'm a school board member, obviously, but also a member of the Friends of the Arts Committee.
And I'm Kathy Alt, and I'm a Spanish teacher here at Hoxie. I'm also in the Friends of the Arts.
We're very happy to be here tonight presenting poetry anthologies featuring over 30 student poets from the Danville schools to each school from the Friends of the Arts Committee, part of the Danville Schools Education Foundation. The idea for the K-12 Student Poetry Contest came from the Friends of the Arts, wanting to support the Frank X. Walker Literary Festival. Students from the Danville and Boyle County schools submitted their original poetry, and this anthology, ink and paper verses, includes the finalists and winners from both districts. Special thanks to Duncan Hill Press, to Frank X. Walker, and especially to Dr. Shauna Morgan, as they supported this effort from the start. There are far too many individuals to properly thank, but with the presentation of these books, we want to thank our teachers, schools, and our school library media specialists for all they did in promoting the contest to our students, and to mentoring our student writers and encouraging their participation with the presentation of a copy of the book for each school library. Books are available to purchase from the Plaid Elephant Bookstore, which is also hosting book signings this week. Elementary students on Wednesday, January the 26th from 4 to 6 p.m. And then middle and high school students on Thursday, the 27th, also from 4 to 6 p.m. And then from District Director of Arts Education, Jane Dewey. Developing self-expression is an important tool. Oh, this is a note, I'm sorry. This is a note from District Director of Arts Education, Jane Dewey. Developing self-expression is an important tool for our students, and it has been especially beneficial over the last year. The Friends of the Arts celebrate our student poets and the Danville Schools educators who are helping them to find their voices. So we present these books to each of the school libraries, and we are looking forward to hosting another version next year. So next year we will have another copy and a whole other set of published poets for our schools. From the school that was on. Oh, we see. Did you wear copies to buy? Did I bring copies to buy? I did bring copies to buy. They're $10 a piece. You'd like for me? Sure. And the money goes into supporting next year's festival. Give the other one. You got change? All right, perfect. Oh, hang on. Give her the pen, you get that.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for that presentation. I'm excited to get the book, and I'm going to try to get to the signings. So, see if I can get the authors to sign it for me. All right, now we do have.
I can help you get one autograph.
All right. It'd be good for me to walk down.
Yeah, like 10 copies, right?
Yes, I can do it. All very copies. He tells everybody he's an author.
Way he's published.
Yeah, that's what he says. So he's published. So.
Okay, and then let's go now to the personnel notifications. Have you all had a chance to look those over? Do you have any questions or anything, just get on with Dr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we now need to approve the meetings of the past minutes, or the past minutes of the past meetings, whatever.
I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the December the, what is it, the 13th meeting.
Mhm.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's move on down to reports. Dr. Thomas?
Organizational chart is just something that I've been working on at the district office. I've shared with all the board members. I haven't had a chance to talk directly with Mr. Stanfield yet, so I'm happy to answer any questions about that. But the upshot is there's only a couple of changes on the organizational chart. What this actually does is lays out a chart so that every person in the district, it just shows how it flows to their direct supervisor, starting with all school staff, going through the principals, all the way up to the directors at the central office. Additionally, on that document that you have that I'm asking approval on, it includes duties that will fall under most of the directors. So for example, under Director of Finance, you'd see payroll, benefit, accounts payable, tax collection, personnel, and general finance. And it's just a general overview of those supervisory duties. And I just remind the board that every employee in the district does sign a contract that says other duties as assigned the supervisor. So it's not limited to this, because we all know about other duties as assigned.
Miscellaneous.
Anybody have any questions or comments? I think we ought to approve the, the organizational chart. So can we have a motion,
I'd like to
please?
make a motion that we approve the organizational chart presented by the
Second.
So we have a motion to approve the organizational chart as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Fantastic. Next up, Mr. Ballard. Are you doing the calendar?
We have a good chair and co-chair.
Okay.
Yes, so Mr. Ballard is not currently the chair or the co-chair of the calendar committee at this point. I'm currently member of the Principal at Hogsett, and I was the chairperson of the calendar committee.
And I'm Brittany Brooke, chair at Hogsett, and I'm the co-chair of the calendar committee.
So we presented or have given to you all the options that were voted on through feedback from all of our stakeholders. After our committee met on several occasions to look at what our previous calendar had been, taking into some consideration feedback that had been received, we presented two options to staff, parents, and students for their feedback.
And so within that feedback, we had 238 people that responded to the survey. And within that, so the two calendars that we presented were, the only thing that was different between the two was the start and end date to each calendar. All the breaks stayed the same, days off stayed the same, holidays stayed the same. And so within that, majority of 138 voted for the later start date of August the 17th. Within that, we had spoke to Mr. Lumen at the high school because one of the concerns for some of them was that the semester would not end like before winter break, and so that was a concern that we had. And so we wanted, before we put those calendars out there, we wanted to discuss that with him to make sure that the semester could end, and it was possible for that to end with either date. And so for the 23-24 and the 22-23 and the 23-24 calendar, both had the most votes in the later start date.
So for the 22-23 calendar, that has a start date of August 17th. For the 23-24 calendar, that was a start date of August 16th. That was selected with the feedback that we were given. And again, we had feedback from both certified and classified staff, as well as parents and several students who participated in that survey. So it would be our recommendation that the board consider the start date of August 17th, 2022 for the 22-23 school year, and a start date of August 16th, 2023 for the 23-24 school year.
Does anybody have any questions of these guys?
I just want to say thank you to you all for the work that you did on this, first of all, but also sending the survey out to the community was really, really helpful. So thank you all for coordinating all of that.
Well,
so much today. So catch me, so there's option 1 and option 2, right? On the 23.
Yes, so we
So you're
had
recommending which option?
option 1
So
on
you're
both
recommending
calendars,
option
yes.
1, okay, thank you
Yes.
very much. Okay, that helps me.
Before we do that, I want to thank you all too. It's not an easy deal trying to get it all put together and make everybody happy, and it's all bliss when you're on that committee. But it takes a lot of work, I mean, because it's just not as easy as it looks. I've been on the committee a couple of times, and there's a lot of great discussion about that. And so thank you all for heading that up. And Mr. Ballard, thank you too. So, all right, we need a motion, please.
I would offer a motion that we approve the recommended calendar for the school year 23, option 1, as presented by the committee.
Okay, we don't need to approve one at a time, we can do both. So there's two-year calendar.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, that's fine, go ahead.
And the next, place.
23, 24 option.
Yeah, 23, 24, option 1, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve both calendars, 22, 23, and 23, 24, as submitted by the calendar.
We need a second, please. So we have a second. All right, the motion is that the board will approve option 1 of both calendar years that's being presented. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. And again, thank you all. Good job, good stuff. All right. Let us go down to the special education update.
Before I dig into all this data, I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to the board for your continued advocacy and support for students in our district with special needs. We greatly appreciate your support over the years. Anytime we come to you with a request, you've never faltered or questioned anything, so we greatly appreciate your support. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at is child count data. And for the two new, let me explain why this is important. So the state gives us per pupil funding to provide education services for our students. Students with special needs who qualify for special education cost us a little bit more to educate because we provide speech language therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, orientation mobility therapy, vision therapy, all kinds of supports for our students. And that tends to cost extra money. So at the top you can see kind of a history of what our child count numbers have looked like. And fortunately our numbers have stayed fairly steady. We actually went up by 1 on this December 1. And how it works, we capture the data on December 1. The students in our district on that day that have IEPs, that's our child count. So unfortunately I think we had 3 students with IEPs leave the district that day. We tried to get them to stay, tried our best, but we were just down, we would have been down 3. So anyway, 373 is our total district count. So I've broken it down for you in the incidence areas, and this is important because this is how our add-on funding is calculated. So when you look at the areas of low incidence, that's our students who qualify for functional mental disability, visual impaired, hearing impaired, emotional, behavior disorder, multiple disabilities, autism, and traumatic brain injury. Now for those students, we can take the base funding and multiply that by 2.35 so we get that extra funding to support the education of those students. But typically, those students qualify for a lot of different therapies. They might need specialized equipment, special transportation, so the cost to educate them daily costs the district to stay a little bit more. So that's why that's super important. And you can see from last year, we were down in that category just by 10 kids. And again, because child count is a snapshot of one day, you just never know who's going to be in the district on that day. The other variance within that is we do have Sunrise Children's Services in our district. So students enrolled at Sunrise that we serve do count in our child count. Last year, we had a higher number, I think we had 21 in the district on child count last year. This year, we had 14. So not as many students there with IEPs, and then based on their eligibility categories, typically heavy in EBD. This year, it happened to be other health impairment that was a little heavier, so that's kind of why our low incidence numbers dropped the way it did. Moderate disabilities, mild mental disability, orthopedic impaired, other health impaired, specific learning disability, and developmental delay. Those students take the base funding amount and multiply that by 1.17 to educate them. Our numbers were down in that category just a little bit, 9 students. And then our high incidence is speech language. That's because the majority of the students that we serve, that is their primary disability category. And we had 112 this year that were speech only. And a lot come from this building because we hit them early. You all know that. You're sitting there nodding. We have a lot of referrals going on right now. But our speech therapists do a really good job of getting those kids early, providing that intensive therapy, and hopefully getting them out of the system as they move on. Towards the next section, I broke it down by school just to give you an idea of what the numbers look like per building. So you can see we stayed fairly steady in that area. We did have 4 on private school. Homeschool is considered private school in the state of Kentucky. So during COVID, we did have some parents who decided to homeschool students. If you're homeschooled and you qualify for speech language services, as a district, we provide youth services. Parents can bring students in for services, and that's what they chose to do. As a matter of fact, last year we were doing teletherapy because of COVID, so we were lucky to be able to offer that for students. And then towards the bottom, I broke it down by those disability categories so you could just see the breakdown of our child count numbers, what it looks like as a district. If you have any specific questions as to how a student would qualify for any of these eligibility categories, I'm happy to talk to you about that later. If you're curious about it, want more information on how we do that at the district level, what that looks like in the schools, I'm happy to provide you with that. Then at the very bottom, a placement summary. Once we identify a student with special needs and they get onto an IEP, we look at what is their least restrictive environment. We try to keep them, of course, the first consideration is the general classroom. Some students need more support than we can provide in that setting, so we move into like a resource setting where we have a smaller group of students with a special ed teacher and therapist. Some of our students require full-time special education because of their needs. So 88% of our child count were in the regular classroom 80% or more of their day. So the majority of our kids are in the general ed classroom for most of the day. 40 to 80% in regular ed, 4% of our students fell in that. And that is, if you're removed for speech therapy, any kind of therapist where you have to pull you out of the classroom, or maybe you come to a resource room for reading or math, that's where those students fall in. 7% of our total population in special ed spend less than 40% in the general classroom, and those are our students with the most significant needs. They need to be with a special ed teacher all day, and we bring therapies into that classroom for them. And then 4 who were private school are up there, and then 1% of our students were on homebound at that time for medical reasons. As a district, we had 19 students in grades 3 through 11 on alternate assessment. That decision is made by an ARC committee, and those students take the regular assessment, but it's an alternate assessment. They're still held to some of the same standards. It's just an alternate form of that assessment. Any questions about child count?
I just noticed that, I guess it's a kind of a question. It might not even be my business, but I noticed that at the heart it says that the exercise numbers they include preschool.
Yes.
And I was just wondering what's the balance there? Is it more preschool or within that number, or what is the balance?
Well, if you look below it, I broke it down.
Okay.
The opposite number with the asterisk is including preschool.
So, okay, so
And then below it,
that's just for okay, I got you.
below that, 107, 42 of those students.
All
are
preschool, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. I think next on the agenda was the ARC chairperson.
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm coming to you with this is ARC chairpersons have a pretty difficult role. They can allocate district funds, they lead the meeting, and sometimes these are contentious and difficult meetings. We have 2 district consultants that chair meetings throughout the district. Amy Robbins is one of our district representatives, and she serves as a sub-chair and has been doing a lot, almost all of the preschool meetings. And then I act as chair if I need to, if it's an emergency situation. And with COVID and all the sickness that's happened, honestly, I kind of had a, oh gosh, moment. When a couple of our district people, it looked like they were going to be out at the same time, possibly for an extended amount of time. And I thought, how are we going to get their jobs covered? Because there's no sub for these people. And a lot of this, you all know, we're still under a corrective action plan from the state for our district, for our state audit last year. We have to meet those timelines. So we have to make sure those meetings occur on a timely manner and they're documented and the paperwork's done correctly. And really pay attention to how we dot our I's and cross our T's. So what we are requesting is the ability to designate additional folks in each building to serve in that capacity if we were to need some backups. We don't want to get in a situation where we're missing timelines and missing meetings because somebody's sick. So what I'm asking you to do is to approve by building these positions. So what we did is I've spoken with all the principals and we talked through who in the building would be good to serve in this capacity. Some of these folks have been ARC chairpersons in the past. They just need a brush-up training. Others are new to this, and we'll make sure they have that training. And Amy Robbins has already started that training, so we'll continue that. So at the district level, myself, Amy Robbins, and our 2 special ed consultants can chair anywhere in the district. At Hobbsett, we would like to add a principal, assistant principal, and a principal designated interventionist who is special ed certified. Great job. Tolliver, both school counselors have served as ARC chairpersons in the past. When I first came to this district, they were the ARC chairs for those buildings. And thank you, thanks to you guys, you approved us having different folks to chair those ARC meetings so those school counselors can do their job and counsel kids and be there for the teachers and students. So adding the school counselors on there and then a principal designated speech language pathologist to help us with some of those meetings. At BATE, we have 2 special ed teachers who have volunteered to go through the training. One was the chairperson of that building when I started, so he's got a lot of experience. The other is very willing. Danville High School, the lead special ed teacher came to us from another district as an ARC chairperson, so we're lucky to have people in the district who have some experience. And then the assistant principal, Tiffany Smith, has a special ed background. She was willing to get the training as well. And then the Sunrise Academy, the lead teacher at Danville High School agreed to be the backup for Sunrise if they would need someone. Any questions about this?
Question. So does this require, how much extra time would this require of people?
Well, our goal is to have them do like the 3rd layer of events. So it would really just depend on the number of meetings that are to be held, because I know between Hobbsett and Tolliver in 1 week that I thought the one chair was going to be out, she had 16 meetings. And they run an average of an hour each, and that's just for the meetings. So the work to prep and the work afterwards to get everything, it's pretty time consuming. So we're hoping this will be more like a 3rd round of the 3rd levels.
So the folks who are filling in that case, receiving extra pay?
Any extra pay? Unfortunately, no. Any other questions about that?
And they realize that.
They do. And to be honest, a couple of these folks are looking at getting their directorship or moving into different roles, so they see this as a way to get experience. They're kind of excited about it, so they're all on now. I wish we could all get paid for the work we do, right? Amen, everybody? The last one is the physical therapy agreement. We were so blessed to have our physical therapist for 10 years, and she hated to resign, but understandably so. We only have currently 8 students in the district who receive physical therapy services. Only two of those students receive services weekly. So a couple of them are twice a month, a couple are once a month. So she was driving from Lexington and giving us a whole day designated to Danville schools, and we weren't filling that with services. So I don't blame her for looking elsewhere. But that made it really hard to find someone willing to come and provide services for our students. I called multiple contact agencies, not enough students for some of these agencies, retired folks. We did a lot of groundwork and footwork to try to find someone, and we did. Ms. Krista Tudor is the physical therapist for Lincoln County Schools. They employ her 7/10. So I called her and talked to her and told her what amazing kids we had, and how great this week was, and she loved it. So we worked out a deal with her, and I want to say publicly thank you to Claudia Godby, the director at Lincoln, because she allowed Krista to flip her schedule around, because Fridays was her day off, and we have some preschool students who need services. So they allowed her to open her schedule for Thursday, so she can come here and see our preschool kids. So this is the arrangement we worked out with her. If y'all have any questions?
Just glad she's gonna be with us.
You did some call taking.
Yeah. Well, I first day gave her a tour of the schools and took her to the classrooms, introduced her to the kids, and I've got a good feeling that she's going to be a good fit.
Okay.
Any questions about this?
Well, I don't have any questions, but we need to thank you for 11 great years of the damn schools and 19 other years, 30 years total. And if you all need to catch Tina, you better do it quick. I think Friday's the last day. So, but greatly appreciate it. I've loved working with you, and it's always been so positive. And your attitude toward everybody, and especially our kids, is just phenomenal. And going to be big shoes to fill. But thank you so
I
much.
had the honor of working with you every time I subbed out there.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that.
One of the few people that went out there and enjoyed being out there.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to say a couple of things too. First of all, I've been in several districts, and what Tina's done, especially wise, you don't know how much she's taken care of our kids, and certainly taken care of the district as well. And before she kind of finishes up there, there's going to be a celebration and a reception on Thursday afternoon at Central Office for anyone and everyone who wants to come out and thank her and celebrate the great work that she's doing.
Okay, guys, getting back, we need 2 motions made. We need the approval of the chairperson assignments. And then we also need a motion to approve the contract for the physical therapy services. So we need to do those individually, so if we can get someone to...
For the chairperson assignments, it said, you mentioned 2 teachers for bait, and it says just teacher on it. So.
They're both willing. We're just going to see who.
Oh, okay, so do we need to approve for both though?
I think just as long as it says it, I think
It says teacher, it doesn't say teacher.
Yeah, but I think aren't the 2 going to...
Principal designated teacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll be okay, yes it is.
Okay, perfect. Then I make a motion to approve the ARC chairperson assignment as presented.
second?
So we have a motion, a second, for the approval of the ARC chairperson assignments as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Okay, now we need to get a motion for the contracted services for physical therapy.
I'll make a motion that we approve the physical therapy contract for services.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the physical therapy contract for services as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Okay, now we're getting ready to head down to 5. Facilities update. Is this Brian? Who's doing that? Who's doing that?
Ernest's going to do it at the moment. Do you want to go ahead and do the SFCCL for assistance?
Yeah, let's just go on and keep them in order.
The SFCCL for assistance is basically whenever our school facilities offer us funding each year. And so what has ended up happening now is they give us funding based on our debt service, and that's on a per pupil basis. And so the offer of assistance this year for annual debt service for Danville is $8,342. And this is an increase over our offer from last year. So we're really excited about getting a larger amount of money to help pay on our facilities. And this is a 10% gone from $458 to this offer being $508, but it does require board action to approve the offer of assistance. I'm encouraging the board to take this offer because certainly this will allow us to grow our capital outlay. And so what I think it will end up doing is increase our bonding revenue by about $173,000 for the next year. And so as we start looking at our bonding projects, specifically, if you're going with the facility plan, Bay Middle School, we'll have that additional revenue of about $173,000 put toward that project whenever it comes around. So I would certainly encourage the board to take the offer of assistance. And it's a short turnaround. I have to give them notification by the beginning of February, so I would encourage us to take this and approve it.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that? Maybe need a motion?
I would like to offer a motion for the approval of the SFCC School Facilities Construction Commission as presented to us by the superintendent.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the SFCC offer of assistance. All those in favor of this motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, let's do a Gravely Hall update. Mr. Dunn?
I can stand there, I don't need to stand up in front of you.
You did not stand up.
I guess over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing the control at Gravely Hall. So some of the things that we've been able to do, it was done by Vincent Lighting, and it was they installed controls at all the entrances, so you can control the house lights from the back of on the stage, in the control room, and back of both entrances. So it's a lot easier to turn the lights on and off from there. And they went from it being all wired and tripping hazard on the stage to being wireless with this DMX. I think it's where DMX plug-in. So it's basically a big motherboard, and they can do it like a big computer. But we got a lot more options there. It's a better location. They can, like I said, that it uses like a data instead of the whole plugging system. We're able to do a lot of the work ourselves, so all the wiring and everything, our maintenance department got to climb the ceiling and run all the wires and conduit for that, and that ended up saving us probably more than $11,000. We'd have to subcontract it out, and that's about what the cost would be. And with that, that money we saved, so all this company had to do was come in and attach the boxes to the walls and hook everything up. So they did run into a few problems. It's called a CB 3007, and they hooked it up and it didn't work. I think Malcolm may be able to talk about that a little bit. That was above my technical expertise. But the one we did have was a CD 80SV, and it worked, and they hooked it up and everything worked fine. We don't really have a current timeline for when they're going to be able to finish because of the repairs they have to do for that. But the total cost for the controls and everything, us saving money on us being able to do the work was really, really helpful. And then that was basically, it's like a three-phase project. So that was changing the controls was phase one, and then phase two was getting a new light board, and then phase three is going to be a little more costly, and that's changing the lights from the regular lights we have now to the LEDs, and we'll have a whole lot more options and better effects for lighting, because we'll have fewer lights and it'll use a whole lot less power. we have now is like, I think it's is it 5,000, 50,000?
Just for one week.
Just for one beam, and there's 4 beams?
Yeah,
So that's 50,000, no, is it 5 or 50?
50,000.
50,000 watts for, on each beam, there's 4 beams, and then we'll be able to go down to about 5 lights or so, be about 50, or 500 watts per beam, so. But that's, that's down the road a little bit, and I think those lights are, the new lights are $1,000 a piece, so.
Yeah, 1,000, maybe a little more.
Yeah, so, but the good thing is you won't do it all at the same time. You can, and the lights we have, you'll be able to keep running the system and then replace the lights as they go instead of trying to get it all in once.
Okay.
So are the lights something that we would have to sub out as far as the changeover of the fixtures?
We can do it.
You can all be done. So
We did the wiring, we can change the lights. The terminations were the hard part, and that's why we had Vincent come in and do that.
okay. So, but we do have a new lighting board that's coming, is that
Yes.
correct?
12 weeks.
Yeah.
Sounds like our COVID test. So, and then the third, phase 3, is that something that we need to look at down the road on funding?
We can do it at one shot, or we can break it up and do it over a period of 5 years or so. So it wouldn't be so expensive, because it is, of course, the most expensive part.
So the one shot will cost how much?
At one shot, probably $45,000.
And from the new board, though, can you run both?
Yes, we are now going to use it as a hybrid system so that we can use incandescent and LED. So we can do it a piece at a time.
Okay. Well, that'll give us some homework to study on.
Exactly. If anybody wants to see it, you're welcome to come in.
So do you still have the same slide there so I can raise and lower the lights?
Nope.
He trained me on one slide.
Yeah,
Then
it's all button now.
then he replaces it, so, but that's all right. Listen, thank you both, and Ernest, thank you so much for the report.
I think we have our April meeting at the high school, so maybe that lead time will have passed by. It's getting closer after a couple of weeks, so maybe we'll see something.
Well, I just want to say, because I've been in a lot of theater productions and tried to do my own lighting, which is really terrible, that this is super important. And so I'm really glad that we think you all for working on that. And I'm delighted that the maintenance folks were able to give us some of that work. So kudos to them for that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the new lights. My kids have been part of community programs that have happened in Great, but not necessarily school programs. So I know how important Greeley is for our community. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, next is going to be the DHS HVAC contract. Or is that Ernst? Okay. We're done?
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just give you one contract for training new controls and make some upgrades for some hallway units and also in flex room. Here we go. Just as you look through, you've got the AIA documents. It's project scope and all the information that's entailed in that. Its base rate price was $246,246. The timeline is, well, it's been pushed back. We started off being, we hopefully having things in place on, again, around spring break, but just with the delays and getting this going and delays in the parts coming in, and it's looking like it's going to be further out than that. So once we get the contract signed and over to train, I think that'll be able to give us a better estimate on when they'll be able to start that.
And just want to say again, the board already approved the BG1 on this, I think last month, not the month before, and that was just truly so that we could try to get on the books and move that forward. And so now it has, been sent as a contract. Of course, the board has to approve any contracts.
So is there any hope we'll have it finished by summer? I mean, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. That's what their goal was, but, you know, with delays, I don't have a good answer for you yet.
Okay.
So
I guess
it has to be at a time when, you know, we don't have to do some of the work where they have to have the heavy cranes and things and stuff moving around. It would be when we don't have students in the building, so it would be planned around that. So that's why we're shooting for spring break. But
Yeah.
now, you know, those things moving around.
The supply chain issue is an issue.
Yes.
And this is over Naval High School.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also using ESSER funding as well, so we're not using
Oh, okay.
hammer mounting or anything.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
I have a motion to approve the DHS HVAC contract as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the Danville High School HVAC contract as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to the BG1.
Good evening. The BG1 had a little revision from last month's original BG1. It had to do with the cost of material increases. And so that is also in the contract that was attached to the agenda. The BG1 revision is actually a part of the contract, so you'll see that basically in two places because we really wanted to call attention to it that we were having a price increase. But one of the good things about going ahead and signing the contract is we have that price in place. So no matter what the price is, come July, June or July, when we actually have the work and the materials on site, we have contracted that price in for today's prices. Because we all know that in 6 months, this is going to continue to rise. And in fact, we were told that we were getting in on right before an additional price increase. So we, because we are using federal funds, we are paying the rate of labor. And again, I'm sorry. Yes. And so we, again, are using the ESSER funds and all that is part of the BG1, and you can see that. We do have to figure in the construction contingency of 5%. That is part of the back tax rules. So that brings the total project cost to $258,558.30.
Okay.
And that's all that's upon us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you, Kim. We need a motion on this, please.
So, okay, I'm confused. So, we just made a motion on the contract.
Just the contract.
And okay, but that document is in what we just approved. Because I went through that, and it didn't change. It's still the $258,500.
This is a change from last month. The previous month, the original BG1 have a
Right.
different price on it. So because backpack policies are anytime we have a change in price, a change in scope, we have to go in and do revision.
I understand that. My question was that it's already attached to what we just approved. And it's the same document that we're looking at.
There's
now.
two signatures required, one for the contract and one for the BG1, even though the BG1 is part of the contract.
So the BG one is just through the state that we have to approve.
Oh, no, I understand all that.
Mm-hmm.
And the contract.
I'm just saying we're approving the same thing twice. It's
Yes, sir.
like-
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's frustrating, we have to do each one individually, so.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve BG1 as recommended.
Need a second, please?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for the approval of the BG1 257. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you all. Okay, now we're going to go down to 5D, bids for the baseball, softball concession and press box. So who's running with this one? Mr. Dunn.
My business is As you can see in your notes, we've had 3 bids come in from the Elite Builders Group, both Kentucky Homes and Central Kentucky Restoration. And we're going to go with the Elite Builders Group for a cost of $25,100. And those are basically alumni of Devil High School. So
This is just the baseball.
Baseball.
It's not the softball here, this is just the baseball.
yeah, just baseball concession stand and the soccer concession, baseball soccer concession stand.
And this repairs everything that we talked about with the water coming in, the flooring, getting the framing on the side of the building, just really putting that, and then getting the window in there to overlook the soccer field as well. Really everything that we've been talking about trying to get accomplished in that building, and looks like we've got a great price.
Yeah,
Great
improve the sight lines, helping with the leaks, improve more space in the concession stand area and on the bottom, improving the door, the window for concession stand.
And where we have, when will the project start?
As soon as they can.
So we'll see work by baseball season.
Whenever whenever we get this signed and we'll get it over to Claudio and get it scheduled, so we get this guy scheduled over to Claudio.
And just let the board know we've set this money aside already in our facilities work, so it's available and ready to go.
Mr. Dunn, did you say that all 3 of these are from Danville One?
No, just Elite Builders Group.
And that's the one you are recommending.
Yes. No, all 3 are local.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? I'm glad we're going to get this work done, so definitely help our baseball situation. Okay, so we need a motion, please.
I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the recommendation of our district operations director for the Elite Builders Group LLC for the improvement of the baseball facility.
We have a motion, need a second, please?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the bid from Elite Builders for the baseball concession and press box facility. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing there are none, the motion carries. Thank you all very much. Okay, now we have to go down to the BG 258, BG 1258.
Is this like this other one, or is this the same thing?
This is a different product.
It's a different one.
Guys, we're getting some work done.
All right, this project is actually for our softball concessions and restrooms. So, this is a new construction project, so we had to have the BG1 because of that. And we used the cooperative purchase
after reviewing, the quote and making sure it had everything that we needed and wanted in that project, the total construction price was $182,985.38. We also had to have that contingency, brought the total project cost to $194,711.38. And we are using our contingency funds out of the general fund to pay for this project. This project is not eligible for any type of bonding because it doesn't have to do with the construction service.
Kim, I noticed in here there are a lot of options. Is that all included?
That's all included.
Okay,
I
just
went with the top of the line. If
Okay.
we decide to delete something, it was easier to delete what we didn't want and to add it on.
Okay, so that's good to know that that's an inclusive price.
This will also, eventually there'll be additional costs because we'll have to have an architect service this. And so we do expect to bring an architect at the next board meeting for approval to accomplish this. And that's the straight architectural fee structure that they use on project sizes. So we know what that amount will be based on the structural fees.
Can I ask how much additional?
I can Google that. I can Google that structural fee real quick.
Okay. So Kim, you said the funding on this is coming from?
It will be coming from general funds, and we set aside contingency funds this year to pay for that.
So a project between 100 and 200,000 has a fee associated of 9.80%, so 10% on that fee is what we'd be looking at for architectural services.
So about $19,000. All right, any questions or when possibly could this even start?
And it's going to be a while.
Yeah, so we won't have some time for the season,
Doesn't look like it.
obviously. Okay. All right, but the idea is we're getting it done and we waited 21 years to get the softball field, so I think we can wait a little bit longer
Will this lock in the
to get
price?
this.
Yes,
Do this
sir.
will lock in?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now, we do have the contingency in case something changes, but
Okay.
we decide to make changes because we want to, now, for such as needed that we couldn't see in discovery.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we need a motion on this, please.
I'll make a motion to approve DG1 and the 258 as presented.
I second that. I second that.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the DG1 258 as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, let's go down to the staffing reports. This would be the staffing formulas.
All right, the board is required to approve the staffing formulas each year, and I can assure the board that the staffing formula that you have in front of you is exactly the same staffing formula that was used the previous year. So on that formula, you'll see there's base teachers given at, you can read through those, but K1 will be 24 to 1, second, third grade 24 to 1, fourth grade 28 to 1, fifth grade, sixth grade 29 to 1, seventh and eighth, and all high school grades 31 to 1. And then it also gives you the same formula that we had last year for our classified staff in regards to secretaries, bookkeepers, custodians, etc., instructional assistants, and so forth. So no changes on the staffing formula that we would give to our school site-based councils. So I would recommend that. And all principals have been discussed, we've discussed this with all principals. So I would recommend that the board approve the staffing formula for 22-23.
Is there any questions or concerns? Okay.
When you underclassified staff, I just don't understand, what's the discrepancy, because one school gets 7 hours, one school gets 8 hours, and the next school gets 9 hours. And why could that not be the same? What's the difference? well, the one with 7, 8, and 9, why they listed.
Yeah.
You know, as such, it seems like to me, I mean, it's the same job, so, I mean, I would recommend that all look the same. If the high school is 9 hours, and they still work the same amount of time, I mean, why would they not get just 9 hours? Why could we not move them and make them all the same?
You certainly have the ability to do that. I'm not certain how that initial structure was put together, Mr. Stanfield. My guessing is a lot of times it has to do on the number of students that would be in the school. But
I mean, the number of students in the same work though, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's,
yeah, sure.
I like the offer motion that we at least look at making that more equitable across all of our schools.
Would you, so you're talking about the clerical assistants?
Where it says classified staff, and the clerical assistants, that is correct.
Okay, and so, I think here's one to even out the hours then. So if that looked like more along the lines of 9 hours in each one of those roles, then that would, and then the principals could break those at 9 hours up however they would see. Is that what you're suggesting? So then you can now say,
As you look at Tyler, I mean, it's 14 hours.
Yeah, is there a reason that we're not thinking about it?
I mean, you see what I'm saying? I don't get it right. It's, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a lot. It's 14 hours
yeah,
at one school, and then our other schools only getting 7, 8, and 9.
Charlotte has a whole lot more students too.
Right,
and I
right.
think that,
Over 500, if I'm not mistaken.
and I think that 14 hours is the equivalent of 2 7-hour positions is what that would be.
Okay, so let's do 7-hour positions.
Yeah, so, certainly I could easily think that we could do, and I agree with you, I think that 8 hours, what it might look like would be 8 hours at Hogsett, 2 8-hour positions at Tolliver, 8 hours at Bake Middle, and then leave the 9 hours at Danville, and then everything should be uniform with the exception of the high
I
school.
can go with that.
Yeah. Is that the recommended change?
That's my recommendation.
No, I'd kind of like to hear from Tolliver what the reasoning is. Do we have anybody?
There's something here.
No.
The Robin's down here.
Well, if it's just that, I mean, I understand if it's 2 7 hours. Then you just don't
Right,
know.
but like,
But why 2
Why?
3 hours?
Yeah.
Well, I guess your number, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the 2 for the number, but the hours to me, I mean,
That's exactly what it is, so it would be,
so
really.
what you just said is, I like that.
Yeah, in essence, all that would do is give Hogsett a clerical staff that would be an 8-hour position.
Yes, absolutely.
And then Tolliver would have 2 8-hour positions, and
Yes.
everything else stays the same.
Yes. And to me, that benefits our students. They
Yeah,
get those
I can
benefits,
see
that
that.
extra hour, I think we can do that.
I can certainly see that, and then give the principals the flexibility to make that.
Absolutely.
I would like to hear from the principal.
Well, I've spoken with all the principals, and not a single principal expressed a concern on this matter as we went through the allocation. So, I mean, it's well noted. We have time. I can bring this back to you in February. We are required to give it to the schools by March 1st, so it makes us a little bit tight. But again, we met with all the principals, and they're anticipating this approval this evening.
Well, I don't think any principal is going to have an issue giving them an extra hour.
No, I'm just thinking about Tolliver.
I was thinking
But I think
kids need a little more assistance, for like, to get on the bus, or they might have more questions, but then Hogsett, I would feel like would need more hours. Like Tolliver and Hogsett would be kind of even, if that was.
Who's been cut? I didn't miss, I'm just.
Well, I guess I misunderstood. So what I was hearing you say was that we would just make everybody 8 or 9 hours. Instead of Tolliver being like 14 and everybody else being 7, 8, 9, is that not?
Well, in essence, Tolliver would again have 16 hours.
Right, they was there. He brought
Oh, so you're saying-
Yes, so everybody has an increase. Yes,
That's the thing. All right,
Yeah.
okay. Fair
not
enough.
taking away from them. They have an increase.
Thank you, that's all.
Yeah.
Can I recommend that we can make this approval as it is presented. We can always come back in February and do a reallocation on those specific positions. And it might be easier, I know that the principals are waiting for us to approve these so they can start on their things. But knowing that we will do a reallocation on those specific positions, and then we can do that in February, but it won't impede or stop us from, if we don't approve this, they can't move on, they can't move forward. So, but it's up to you guys, however y'all want to do it.
We can make the 8 hours work, Mr. Becker, because that's 3 additional hours per week is what we would be talking about.
Okay?
And it seems like a fair request.
So I would like to put it under the also motion that we make the move.
Okay.
You want to approve it tonight?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So they can move forward.
Yes, right. Second motion.
So for the notes, can we repeat what exactly we're doing?
We'll have,
It's for the clerical assistant over there.
That's right.
the recommended motion is under the clerical assistants, under classified staff, that Hogsett Primary will have 8 hours, Tolliver Intermediate will have 16 hours, Bate Middle 8 hours, Danville High 9 hours. And then I think everything else
Right, yes, that's good.
That's the motion,
Yes, sir.
and I approve. I second it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table for the approval of the staffing allocations with the adjustment on clerical assistant hours in each of the schools, as recommended from the superintendent. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Stanfield. Appreciate that.
The next item, very similar, so we'll go through these as well, but then you get down to the actual, so that's the staffing formula, and then you get to the actual staffing allocations, and this is just an overview for the board to see. You can see each one of the schools that are listed there, and based on the allocations, the projected numbers will give you how many for each site-based council. So for example, Mary G. Hoggs at 13 SPDM allocations. And then it also breaks down, the district gives the positions that the district has always given. The schools, or not always, but this year will give, and the same as last year, ESSER positions and how all of those are broken down. And so I would again recommend that the board approve the staffing allocations as presented. And this just then details to the schools how they break their staffs, how their staffs will be broken down. Again, the allocation as presented is identical to the current year. There'll be no loss of staff, with only the exception of we did not apply for the Math Achievement Grant. We did not apply for the Read to Achieve Grant, and as such, we won't have those positions in our allocation. So because we didn't apply for those grants, those positions automatically just die off. So everything stays the same for our schools. No loss of staff other than those noted positions.
I make a motion that we approve the 2022-23 staffing allocations as presented.
Second motion.
So we have a motion and a second for the approval of the 22-23 school year staffing allocations as allocations as all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Okay, let's go down to the last one, which is the certified position.
These are the additional certified positions, and again, those are listed very similar to what I've just gone over, and this actually determines all of the additional positions that are given to the schools so they can start breaking down their allocations and putting their site-based council plans in place. I will say that, again, everything stays the same this year, and I will say that we're in a great position this year, but a lot of it has to do with ESSER funding, and everybody will be very pleased with this allocation, and the teachers are getting, but I do want to caution the board, and I think it's important for the board to continue to caution our community that 1 year from now, the ESSER funds run out.
That's right.
And we have a lot of positions associated with ESSER funding. So again, we're happy that we're able to make this recommendation recommendation, and we're happy that it's going to take care of our kids this year, but we're cautiously optimistic because we know a year from now, this is really going to change, and then we're all going to be facing some very difficult decisions. But having said that, I would recommend that the board approve the additional certified positions as presented.
But, so, with that being said, if mine serves correctly, and that's scary these days, dangerous, with mine. But I do believe that when we approve those positions, those individuals knew ahead of time that they were serving in a position that such day would come.
We've presented that, they're aware, and to be honest, we've had quite a bit of turnover that, I just anticipate that turnover continuing throughout the next year.
Of course, I mean.
And as it does, it may be prudent to look and say, well, we only have 4 months left of this position, we don't have
And that might be right, absolutely. Okay.
All right. I think we're really in a great situation.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate Dr. Thomas that the awareness that we want to let the public know, because next year it's going to look a lot different. There's going to be a lot of jobs not there, but we knew that's coming. So we need a motion, please.
I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the 22-23 additional certified positions as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the 22-23 additional certified positions. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Okay, finance. So we're going to look for the, I guess, Kim, is that for you coming? Okay.
Now you're preaching to the choir.
Last month, we had not finished the November reconciliation, and you can see that the next morning, we were able to get that finished, and so I wanted to have time for you to review and see if there's any questions that you have about that.
It's all good.
So we would need a motion for November to be approved. If there's no questions.
I make a motion to approve the financial report for November.
Second motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the November financial report as submitted. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
And December financial statements, we had receipts. We also had, I wanted to mention that, I'm sorry. We had 91% of our tax bills collected
Wow.
at the end of December, which was 95% of the total bill, or total collection. So we're right on target, above target on our revenue sources. The rest of our bills are pretty self-explanatory. Mr. Ball and I went through the invoices, and if you have any questions about those, I'll be happy to answer.
Everything's okay.
Okay, run it through.
Mr. Wilson. Okay.
Two thumbs up.
And so,
Second motion.
Need another motion? Okay, I make a motion to approve the financial report for December as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion for the approval for the finance report for December as submitted. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, let's go to the payment of invoices.
I think I combined those. I'm
She
sorry.
did.
You did?
Yeah.
I'll offer a motion for approval for the financial report for payment of invoices.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion for the approval of the
Payment of invoices.
for the payment of, the payment of Invoices as submitted. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
I'm sure, on that invoice report, you did notice that we have paid our audit, so we're good, everything.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest expenditures for the month. The next on the agenda is the draft budget. And that was attached. And I'm going to start with Fund 3. And just because of the nature of what it is. So, Fund 3 is where we have our construction funds and our bond service payments, our debt service payments. So really, there weren't a whole lot of things that had changed on that. We did have, I plugged in everything, what our bond payments will be as it stands today. So then, Fund 4, that was not, I'm sorry, I can use the table. So, Fund 4, I'm sorry, Fund 51 is our food service. One of the things that I did account for was the cost of food supplies. Not only are the food supplies increasing, but the ability to get food is harder and harder every day. Our food director and I go through and we discuss some of the purchases that she's making just because they're hard to find, and whether she should try to buy what's available at the time. And we've done some things like that on, specifically like on the styrofoam trays and things like that we use that are really hard to procure. So when we do find some, we purchase it. So you may, one month you may see a large expenditure for those food supplies just because we're trying to keep our inventory availability up when we know we're not going to be able to get it the next month.
Supply chain issue.
It is all the way across.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the main, Fund 2, I didn't plug in anything because we don't have information yet on what grant funds we're going to have. So, when you see that, it will be on the tentative budget. On Fund 1, which is our general fund, I first looked at our salaries, and we took the staffing plan that we have in place and looked at where our raises would be at. I did about 5 different scenarios of how we could provide raises to our staff if we chose to do that. There was a 1.5% option, 2%. We looked at doing $1,000 to classified because that tends to be a higher percentage of their salary because they're a lower paid staff than what your certified staff is, and doing a certified with 2%. But still a nice raise. We need to try to look at ways to retain staff, because as we lose staff, a lot of that knowledge base that they take goes with them. We train them, and then somebody else gets them to utilize that training. So it's cheaper in the long run for us to retain these employees, and we're competing with private industry that's paying $15 to $18 an hour for items such as food service. It's hard to compete with that when a lot of the workers they're not thinking about retirement and sick days. They're looking at their bottom line on their check, wondering how they're going to feed their family or pay an electric bill.
So those are things that we're looking at to try to do to retain our staff here at Danville independent and make it a place where people want to stay and want to work.
Yeah.
So, I figured a 2% salary across the board because it was fairly close to what it would be for $1,000 classified and 2%. And I can send you those numbers if you'd like to take a look at them sometime.
That's fine. Do we not have anything already in place to give everyone? Just an automatic, I mean, cost of living goes up every year. I think this year was fairly high, like 7% or something.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like it would be standard for us to give a 2 or 3% raise with cost of living every year anyway. So we don't have anything in place. We just have to approve it every year.
Well, we do that every year. So right now, she and I are crunching numbers, trying to make a recommendation to the board on down the road. The
Okay.
draft budget, you're not committing to a raise or not getting a
No.
raise. This is just a requirement that the state says that we have to put a good faith effort into what our budget's going to be for the next year. But these are the numbers that we're trying to kick around to see how we make that work in our budget. And we'll come back to the board with that as additional. But yes, to answer your question, that's an every year decision for the board.
And I want to say that I appreciate that because I've had lots of conversations and I want to make sure we are able to do just what you said, that we can compete and keep our good people working with our kids. And we have people in those situations, they want to be with our kids. But when they have to look at that bottom line, and don't mistake what I'm saying, about anybody, you do what you have to do, but when they're working with our kids, almost prized possessions, and they have to leave to go across the street to food service or wherever they're going to work, and they can make almost double what we're paying them, shame on us that we don't even look at it, and we not try.
Well, we're really trying to look at that, especially classified as where we're really.
And listen, I know that we can't get anywhere without our teachers, and they know, I hope everybody knows that I am a strong supporter of our teachers, but I'm a strong supporter of our classified staff as well, because I don't think that, I'm just going to say our teachers would be as good as they are without them. It takes all of us, and so we have to learn to take care of them as well. And I hope, and I know that this board would like to see that same thing, that we take care of our classified staff just as well as we will take care of any of our other staff. So,
I'd also be interested in that.
but just important. So that's okay. I just want to make sure that we, give it the best out of what we have to make sure that we can compete, so we can keep those people working with our kids.
And to just follow along that, I'd love to know, and you've already looked at this going forward for our classified staff. Do we have an idea of where our classified staff payment is in relation to the counties that surround us? And are we at the top of the list, or are we at the bottom?
What is our rate right now? Are we $10 an hour? What do we pay our classified staff? Are we even at $10? I know some of our staff some make $10.
I think
And I say shame on us.
it depends on which position you're looking at. And you had in your question that one thing I brought to the table is we also need to look at what type of districts we have, the size, a comparable district.
Absolutely.
That's really hard to do because I've had, staff say, well, I can drive to Lexington and make da-da-da. Well, yes, but drive to Lexington every day. There's a cost involved there, and not just the gas in your car. Being away from your family for 3 hours a day is a big deal. And not being able to attend your son's soccer game or your son's basketball game is a big deal. And that's one of the things I think that makes Danville so great to work for is because it's a kid-friendly place. I work.
Absolutely.
I work.
I drive, but and I don't miss a game, but I think that those people will say, you know what, I'd rather give them a cheeseburger. I have to miss a game. They want to be able to do the necessity while all that stuff is important.
So one thing we're looking at to try to get this together is on, we're a part of the Central Kentucky Educational Co-op, and that's a CKC. On their website, they list the salary schedules for most of the districts within the co-op. And so that's one of the things that we're using as looking at the area to kind of make certain that we are in the range as best as possible, and if not, then being able to be right there in the middle of the range.
Is that on their website?
That's on our website, ckc.org, and I think it's under, it's under district resources.
Okay, thank you.
So, and salary is a big part of what we do here. It is, our employees are our assets, so we need to look at it like that. And even though when you take a look at the percentage of salary expenditures, it may look like we're spending 82%, but some of those, not up until this past year, some of those other expenditures, non-salary, has not increased at a rate to offset those salaries. And I think you're going to see some of the differences in that coming up, because you're having like your fuel and gasoline and all these other things are becoming so much more expensive that it's going to start balancing some of the revenue out, or the costs associated with salaries out on that. But so we looked at the salaries, we looked at just instructional supplies, our cost of our fuel. We looked at what had been going on. I know we had a water increase, and so we brought that forward. I went back 2 years and looked at 2019, which was somewhat relatively normal. And then I looked at where we had went these last 2 years and tried to find a happy medium and come up with some of these figures, and then kind of just look at what was going on in the world today with our diesel, our electricity, our gas, our other costs of instruction. So, and that's how I come up with these figures. So, do you have any questions about that working budget?
Nope.
This would be my 16th draft budget. And it's amazing how the categories all stay the same. What changes is a lot of it's the unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what it was last year, but this year the issue is we don't know. So you might make a great estimate, and then in reality, we can still make the adjustments before we approve that final budget as we go through the process. We all have to keep in mind that the issue is how much can the school district bear? And it's not just this year. So if you increase salaries, say, I'm going to do a number, $250,000. That's for the rest of the lifetime of this school district.
Yes, sir.
So we have to look at reality in some of these things. And maybe we're not selling our jobs correctly. Maybe there's something there that we're not explaining to our employees about. I've done food service almost my entire life. So when I worked till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I had to come in the next morning at 6 to open up, that reality doesn't happen at Danville schools. Also, I generally did not have health insurance. And just because they say they offer it, it doesn't go to everybody. And if you do get it, it's a pretty big expense and usually not a great policy. So it might be that we can do some of the increase, but are we ever going to be able to compete at $18 an hour?
No.
No, it's just not going to happen. I mean, not in reality. So we probably need to do more of an informational type thing when we bring employees in, or prospective employees, and they say, well, I was making $16 an hour at Wendy's. Well, how many hours are you working? Because most of those folks are not full-time employees. And, you know, what benefits do you get? And a lot of times there are no benefits. So then you have to value, what's the value of working for the Danville schools or any school district? So you take into account that there's retirement down the road, and you take into account that there is health insurance available and you know, at a minimal cost and very good coverage. I mean, so some of it is weight. I agree. We need to look at somehow to increase our base. I agree with that. But I think also we have to look at the total job and the total package and what it offers and how that relates to what may be an hourly wage. So I don't know how to fix it. And this isn't saying that people don't deserve more. They do deserve more. But we don't have infinite monies. And so we may be flush 1 or 2 years. But then 10 years from now, we might be on that watch list. I remember when we were on the watch list, when we had a 2% contingency. That's a horrible position to be in because you're being watched by the state.
Well, I don't think we're there. I don't think we're at that point. But I do think it's because of this, because of what we have to do due diligence. And it makes me at least have, I understand all of that what you're saying, but we have to do due diligence and at least look at it so that we can do, I mean, once we get the numbers, so then we can sit and talk about it. Once we can look at it and see what we can do. I'm not saying that we can pay $18 an hour, but we might be able to be $750. I mean, but we would never know that if we don't start putting the numbers on the paper and start taking a look at it.
No,
we have to start to look at that so that we can start to take care of our classified staff.
And the other factor,
I get it. I totally get it. That we don't have anything money.
the other factor is you didn't factor in job security. You don't have no job security when there's anything else, but you do with this system. That's the thing, they know they have a job come to the next day, the next day, the next day. So that's a very key factor, is job security.
Some of those people that want to have good job security. They've been there for 14, 15, 16 years. I know manager out there that's been working there for a long time.
And that's the low.
I wouldn't say that like that because some of them do.
Yeah.
But that's one thing we do try to really hit home to the staff that we're hiring, that we want them to be part of the Danville family, and we want them and expect them to be around, not just for the rest of the school year, but we're gonna continue their training, and maybe not just in their field, but maybe in other areas, so they're cross-trained and able to do bigger and better things if that's what they would like.
But that's a good point. That's what we have to do because I've seen it more than none that I've seen custodians become teachers. It's just how we grow our own, so, but we have to be able to, like you said, and I agree with the packaging of it. I mean, we can maybe figure out what we're not doing and continue to do that as well. So.
Yeah, like Ron, Kim and I'll do due diligence. We'll really center in on the
That's all I'm asking.
And, again, we've got to present their act budget in January, and that's what we're doing. Like, these are big time discussions. We're struggling in our classified staff. We're struggling keeping them. We're struggling hiring. And, we know that those are issues that have to be addressed. We do a lot better across the board certified. I'm not making any commentary salary-wise or anything like that. But that is a more consistent occupation in our certified, and so we don't have as many issues, and that really already kind of feels like the family that we do in Danville, and we appreciate that. We just want to make certain that we can make the family a little bigger and take care of everyone. So that's, and we'll do due diligence on that. We will not break the bank on Danville. On that, and we'll have a good recommendation to you in that aspect.
No, and that's just the last comment on it. This board's always been very generous. And I'm sure that will continue as long as we know. I like looking at the budget for the year, but I also want to know what's going to cost us in 5 years. And that kind of strategic planning financially is something we really need to start paying attention to. So, but anyways, but we want to do the best. We want to give our folks as much as we can. And I know that these two, Dr. Thomas and Kim, will be working on that as we go along. So keep us informed on that, okay? So we need to do an approval of the draft budget as presented. So we need a motion, please.
I offer a motion of acceptance of the draft agenda of the draft budget as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for the approval of the school year 23 draft budget as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Consent agenda has been grouped for approval without discussion. Can we have a motion, please?
I offer a motion as well for the consent agenda to be approved.
So we have a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anybody from the public to speak?
No.
Okay. So we'll move on. And before, I'm going to recommend that we go into executive session. So we need a motion, please.
But before we go into
Can we take a break?
no, just before I need to. I cheated and I went ahead and looked through my thank yous, and let me tell you, that it's made my heart smile. And please share that on my behalf. And I wish I knew who did them, because one of them knew me very well. They must know me because they realized, they drew me, and then they realized I must have been tall. So they went back and extended my legs. And then they drew me a house to match. And they must not hit my head a lot. And so I appreciate that. This was the best. And so please share with them that I thoroughly enjoyed. Absolutely, because this I love them all, but this one was, I loved it. Jenny?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, now?
Yeah.
I love it.
Did you get the motion to go to executive session?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, what was the second?
They just have names on them.
They don't have names on
On the
them.
left, there are names on them.
Hey, what?
Okay.
Why don't you make the motion?
There's no name on it. Sir? What happened? Are we doing something?
We're going to go on and try to get the motion made to go into executive session.
Oh, okay, yes, sir.
I was in motion that we want to do this.
I second that.
Okay, if you all, Jennifer, if you'll be clear on what the motion is, because we need to include KRS.
Oh, I gotta read this thing?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I would
It's
like to make a motion that we go into executive session in accordance with KRS 61.810F.
Would you also include for the discussion of appointment of personnel in your motion?
I would also like to include this appointment of this
Okay.
personnel discussion.
Thank you.
Second.
So we need a second, we have a motion and a second for the approval to enter into executive session per KRS 61.810 for purpose of discussion or hearings which may lead to an appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an employee. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?